You know the feeling when your mate's golf ball flies past yours? Or when you're on the green in regulation, but he holes it from the bunker? At Drummond Golf, we get it. That's why we have our lowest price guarantee. As Australia's biggest, you can count on our massive buying power for the lowest prices in golf. But if you do happen to find a lower advertised price, we'll beat it. The Drummond Golf lowest price guarantee. Unbeatable. Conditions apply.
Hello and welcome to episode 87 of The Thing About Golf, a podcast series from Golf Australia magazine that explores the fundamental question, why are people so drawn to this, the greatest stick and ball game of them all? My name's Rod Morri, and on this episode we're sitting down for a chat with Australian golf coaching royalty. Charlie Earp's name is inextricably linked with that of Greg Norman, the long-time Royal Queensland head professional and early influence on a golfer that would go on to become one of the game's most influential people. But Earp's career has been about so much more than that. Name any successful Queensland touring pro and chances are that at some point they've crossed paths with Charlie. But that's not the end of the game where his greatest legacy lies. A latecomer to golf, Charlie is about as old school a club professional as you're ever likely to find. A trip from the pro shop to the putting green to the clubhouse in order to take a photo for this interview turned into a 30-minute journey because everybody wanted to stop and talk to Charlie. But, and this is the key to the man, Charlie also wanted to stop and talk to them. There's been no shortage of accolades and recognition for the now 85-year-old, and while he's proud of all that, it's never been what drives him. Charlie loves the game and he loves people, and both have loved him back in equal measure. He is the epitome of the saying, they don't make 'em like that anymore. And just before we start, a big thank you to the Royal Queensland Golf Club for allowing us to use their clubhouse to record this rambling chat, which I hope that you enjoy as much as I did. Charlie Earp, we'll start as we always do by saying thank you very much. It's no small commitment to endure the thing about golf, so we thank you for that. We're sitting here in the Royal Queensland Clubhouse. This is practically your second home, is it not? When did you start here as the club professional?
On the 1st of December 1958.
Goodness me.
I came from Lismore, from where my good boss, Reg Want, who was an assistant pro here at this club, and I did my time with him at Coolangatta Tweed. And then he got me the job, him and a dear friend, Alf Rush, from Coolangatta Tweed Heads Golf Club, down at Lismore, and I was down at Lismore for about 12 months.
How long had you been a pro at that time yourself?
Then 54 I went through.
So 4 years. That would have been quite the prestigious job for quite a new professional, I would have thought, Royal Queensland, yeah?
Yeah, when they first said to me, you're very, very fortunate, but RQ at that stage was going to be moved down to Peninsula or Clontarf or Redcliffe Golf Club, which was owned by Sir Manuel Hornibrook,
right,
who was a member of the club here. And Vince Gare, Mr. Gare, who was the Premier of Queensland then, he wanted to take over this area here to put wharves on it and for the shipping and because
it's a very industrial area. I'd not been to Royal Queensland before. I was quite surprised. Very industrial surrounding the golf courses. It's not what you expect necessarily to find surrounding a Royal Golf Club.
No, not now.
No, not anymore. That's right.
Well, then there was bush all around here when I came here, and he then there was a split in the Labor Party, and he went one way and the DLP went another way, and he lost the seat, not the seat, the premiership. And then, I can't remember his name now, the
new premier.
The new premier who was the leader of the National Party, or there was a country party then, and he took over, and then that's when some of our young fellows who were leading businessmen around town that decided, well, we'll resurrect RQ. And of course, during that time, they had bought Redcliffe Golf Club from St Manuel Hornibrook.
Right.
And it sort of, all the plans had been made there, and then so when the time came to resurrect it, we were running both kind of clubs, and I was part of the resurrection,
Right.
and the new secretary manager, and they had all this
And that was on this site here.
on this site where we are now, and different golf course, of course, and better.
Yeah, and now it's changed a lot, obviously, since then. We might come to some of that shortly. The podcast is called, Charlie, The Thing About Golf, and the whole point of that is it's a pretty simple question. What's the thing about golf for you? It's been the bulk of your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, from when I wanted to be a jockey, and I took to Coolangatta Tweed, and I said to my mother, I'm going to be a jockey because I played football and tennis and all that sort of. Being a Kira.
You were quite a late starter in golf, were you not, if I'm not mistaken? You did a lot of other sports first?
Yeah, well, I played, being a bushie, and I brought up on a dairy farm. And
Whereabouts, Charlie? What part of?
A place called Sanford. It's called Closeburn, really. But in 1946, 47, we came from Upper Crystal Creek.
And where would that be?
That'd be right on the border of New South Wales and Queensland.
And inland?
West? No, it's not very far.
No,
Just
okay.
outside Mooloolaba.
Right, okay.
On the Northern Rivers. And they rise around there a little bit with cattle and stuff. And then we bought a farm.
And in terms of sport in a place like that at that time, what were kind of the options? Was golf an option?
No way. Because when the school was fully, every pupil was at school, the school I was at, the attendance was 13.
Right.
13.
Total of 13.
13.
And that would be across all ages, though, not 13 kids the same age.
Just in the primary school, public school, as they call it in New South Wales.
So how old would you have been the first time you knew golf existed and the first time you picked up a club? And what was that experience like?
Well, having played a fair bit of tennis at school at Kira, and the football, and the cricket, and selling lollies and chocolates and delivering newspapers morning and night.
Practically a club pro already, Charlie.
Oh, yeah? So,
The whole retail business, you already had that down pat.
So, and then I was 13 or 14 years of age. Mm-hmm. And then we did what they call scholarship. And I missed out on that. I begged up my maths on that one. But I was busy playing football and I was busy doing selling chocolates and things at the theatres.
You knew enough about maths to run a business. You didn't
No, I didn't worry about putting it on paper.
No, that's right.
And when they put it on paper to me, I didn't comprehend it.
Yeah.
So I hadn't heard of golf yet until there was a girl I was at school with, Shirley Stokes. And they said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, my mother's taking me up to Southport, the high school, see if they'll have any openings to go further my schooling up there. And so anyhow, the headmaster at the Southport High School there, he said, after he interviewed me, he said, no, he said, we want academics here, we don't need sporting people. So I thought, you beauty. Because I wasn't that wrapped in school.
I'm in
So then she said, well, no, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'll just talk with Mum and Dad and see whether they were talking about coming to Brisbane at that stage. She said, why don't you go and see Reg Want? I said, who's he? And he's a golf pro. He's good at doing these other sports. Why don't you have a go at golf? So I rode my push bike out to Coolangatta Tweed and saw Reg Want. And he said, yeah, I've heard a bit about you. You had to go. I said, I've never been. This is the first time I've been on a golf course. But I had seen a golf course when I used to come into Brisbane.
Right.
From out at Closeburn.
So you'd go past it.
I go past the 11th hole and the 13th hole at Kapira. And so anyhow, he said, I'll come round and see your mother and father. So he came round and he spoke to them and told them what this golf was all about. And they'd never even heard of golf. And they hadn't even been on a golf course or anything. So
were you about
14,
15? 14 to 15?
Yep.
Right.
So then I started out there with Reg and...
Why do you think he did that, Charlie? You would imagine
wouldn't have a clue.
There were other kids who had some golf experience and maybe even some promise you would have thought would have been the obvious one.
Well, nobody... there was only... When I did my time, there was only 5 trainees in Queensland.
Right, okay. So it was a
This is back in 1950.
Yeah.
Or, I beg your pardon, 53.
Yeah.
And so for that, and he was very kind, and I didn't even have any real clothes or anything.
So you lobbed up on day one. You'd never swung a golf club. You'd never played a golf hole. What happened in those circumstances?
Well, I started going out there, though. Sort of second day I started on a golf course. It was the day I started my apprenticeship. I'd never been an amateur golfer. But I slipped out a couple of times. I thought I might get the job and never go to this damn golf, because I thought it must be easy because a few people can play it all right.
I could have been. Yes, it did.
Tell you what, you're kidding, I didn't get surprised.
Yeah, 60 years later.
Yeah.
Still trying to learn.
And anyhow, go to work, and he...
So were you a natural? Did you pick it up quite easily? Were you one who sort of hit the ball quite well the first time? Or
I had bat and ball sense.
Yeah.
As a kid.
You would have seen the sort of people who can't seem to get the club on the ball. They've got no hope of getting the club on the ball when they start. Not everybody's like that. Obviously, you weren't like that.
I think I might have been a little bit, but I mean, I was busy looking to see where the ball's gone before it left.
That's right.
That sort of thing.
Something's never changed with young blokes, do they, Charlie?
No, and then I went through that, and he was tremendous, because he had the background on golf, coming from here, from all these great players and great people, and Alec Denham was his boss, and all that sort of going through those sort of people, and Arthur Spence, who was a pro here too, and Red's been a young bloke, and Von was here, Von Nider. And a lot of those young blokes were good golfers, and so he learned a lot, and not only about golf, but how to...
The business and memberships and
the people.
Yeah, it's a multifaceted job, isn't it? Being a golf professional rather than a professional golfer. They're two
different, but A and B.
Yeah.
And A there, B there. And
the doctor and the chemist, they're in related fields, but they're totally different jobs.
Yeah. So that being able to handle people, and so I got into it, and I started only give me £2 5 shillings a week.
Was that good money for the time? Decent?
Well, I wouldn't have a clue.
No, never had any money before.
No, I'd get some money off Jack Evans. I'd get a bit of money off Charlie's bloody milk bar and delivering papers and all that sort of stuff for pocket money. And but I just used to, up when the stars were starting to go out, I used to get up, and then when the stars used to start coming out, I'd go to bed sort of thing, and after I come home from doing night work.
And that was just natural with you? That you just had a work ethic?
Yeah.
You just worked from a young age because you wanted to?
Well, I think probably because I was brought up on a farm. But I might have been.
There's no choice, is there, on a farm? There's no options.
My two brothers and my sister.
Things have to be done.
She had to get up, and then I had another brother later on. And so I got into it, and then I become a real mugly. Two-tone shoes later on, and check pants that Reg gave me, and but I couldn't speak highly enough of what Reg one did for me and my family and everything.
I ask most of our guests this question, and I know it's an impossible one to answer, but I think you'll get the point. If you could take yourself back there now, could you possibly envisage what golf has been for you in the years that followed? Do you know what I mean? Could you have looked forward and seen anything like what it's been?
Too dumb. Well, it's a blank. Same as the kids today, I would think. It's going to be, just take some of these young fellas around here, and they're doing medicine. And it's a bit like one of Christina Mew, where she decided that she would want to have a good score. She said, I'm just easing off golf this year. And I want to get a good score for the school. And, she went on and became number 1 in Queensland. She's an Asian girl.
There's a difference in this day and age, isn't there? If you're to be an elite golfer, I don't think your story, it would be a very unlikely story in this day and age, wouldn't it? To take up the game at 14, 15, come into it, that would seem very unlikely in this model.
It would. Then I think Cal Nagel I think he did the same what I did, and so another mate of mine, John Collins, and he's turned out to be a good, very good player and a pro. And
golf would have looked a lot different then,
yeah,
obviously, Charlie, as well, which would have been a contributing factor to that being the case.
Up for old people and snobs.
Yeah. And was that true?
No. Well, I never found it.
No.
I never, when I was a young bloke in the 50s, when I used to go to Sydney or Melbourne, and I'd get an invite, or I'd end up at Royal Sydney or Australia and say Melbourne, any of those schools. And then I think pros weren't allowed in the bar to a degree, and I never had any problems at all. I found them lovely people. Well, they'd have to be lovely people.
Yeah. And yet, Charlie, that image of the game, to those who don't play it or know anything about it, endures to this day.
Yeah.
To the detriment of the game, doesn't it? Why have we not been able to, as golf, change that image beyond the game, do you think? Why do you think we can't seem to get that message out? Because, and we see this we're certainly seeing it in Sydney and parts of Melbourne and other places around the world, public golf in particular in urban areas is under real pressure. People who don't know anything about the game, that land could be used for something much better than golf.
Yeah, and a lot of that. Maybe the way we present ourselves, but when I go through all the other sports for relaxation, they play golf.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what sport it is. Some that don't play sport, probably they may be, but the people who knock it are the people who've
not played it.
Not played any sport.
No.
Not even got.
We also have, I think, our own entire community. We've got 2 big golf magazines here in Australia. We've got podcasts. We've got websites. We can talk to ourselves forever without ever talking to the wider community, can't we, in golf? And I wonder whether that's a part of the problem. We tell ourselves the wonderful stories about golf, but I don't know if we tell those stories to people who don't play golf.
Yeah, the trouble, we have a problem with talking to those people who don't play golf because they don't want to listen to us.
That's probably true too. Yeah, probably.
Because it doesn't interest them. They'd rather talk about switching on the TV or.
It's such a nuanced game, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you don't play, it's hard to understand when you watch golf on the television what's interesting about it.
Yeah,
because all 3-foot putts look the same.
You're right.
You know, and all iron shots from the fairway look the same, and all you see all day is pros hitting the ball close to the hole because that's what they put on TV. It doesn't show really golf as it is. That's right.
And the similarity is that I can't see how people can sit there all day watching a car race or a motorbike race or that, because I think, God, we were only talking about this last night. And for me to be able to sit down and sit every night, doesn't matter what news is on, is something to do with motor racing, bike racing or like that. And I said, there must be a heck of a lot of people watch those sports.
Yep, there are.
And I suppose there's a lot of people who watch golf but don't, as you just said, why waste all that land on the golf course?
Yeah. You can watch car racing and understand it fairly easily. One overtakes the other and now he's in the lead. Golf's a bit more like chess, isn't it? Most sports are checkers, big TV sports, and that's part of the reason they're popular. You don't have to play or have any great in-depth understanding of the game to follow what's going on. But in golf, you kind of do, and there's 150 blokes start every week, or women, and then it gets whittled down at the halfway. There's a lot to learn before you can really engage in golf, I think. There's some, which makes it difficult for people who don't play.
And the other thing is that, as I mentioned, about all those people who play the other sports, they play golf for relaxation. The other thing is, I explain to people, golf is not only golf. Golf covers a lot of where do all the birds, where do all the animals, where do all the things migrate to in a city. Not so bad in the bush or outside. But it becomes the home or the
sanctuary.
coverage for all the animals.
That's right.
And you just go to North Queensland, you have a look in a lagoon, every now and then, a damn crocodile looking at you.
Maybe a step too far, but you're right. Where else in an urban environment?
And you can't sit in the middle of the bus stop waiting for a bus to come along or anything like that.
That's right. they're some of the stories we need to tell, I think, better outside of golf.
Out to people who know, well, if you're not playing very good golf, and the other thing that when you're not playing good golf, you're not hitting the ball well, you're getting a lot more exercise than anybody else. But then,
and you're experiencing a full range of emotions, Charlie.
Yes.
From self-loathing to self-hate to poor self-talk, and learning a lot of lessons about what adversity's like. Sometimes golf really kicks you.
And what you can learn in 5 hours.
Yeah.
And there's one thing about when you're hitting the ball well, how the brain operates to find a way to bugger it up.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
To hit a bad shot. So that, and that's wonderful memories here with one of the members here, Sir Alexander Murphy, if I can drop a name. And we were out having a lesson one afternoon, and he was just saying, we were talking about exercise, and he said, swimming is the best exercise you can have, Charles. And I said, can I disagree with you for a moment? And I said, I think golf is, because you're exercising 4 or 5 hours, exercising every muscle in your body, and you're walking. And I said, the other thing is that you're exercising your brain. That's He said, why do you say that? Also, I said, you're trying to find a way to hit a bad shot, you're trying to find a way to hit a good shot. So you have that frustration about it.
I wonder if anybody who was mathematically minded could calculate what's involved in weighing up a golf shot.
All right.
Approaching the ball, there's the lie, there's the wind, there's the distance, there's how you're feeling that day, there's the temperature condition. There's a lot involved. There's a lot got to go on in the mind. None of it's outrageously complicated, but it ticks the whole time, doesn't it?
It does.
When you play golf.
And I'll just give you an example. Have you ever played in a Pro-Am?
Well, a couple of times, yeah.
Okay. And if you play with it wouldn't matter whether you play with a name player or not,
No.
but he's a pro.
That's right.
Tour play.
Yeah.
He or she. And there's a lot of people standing around.
Yep.
People might have cameras. And you say to yourself, the sooner I get out of here, the better.
That's right.
Then you cross yourself and you get on that tee there, and then you time to fiddle around, the ball keeps falling off the tee, and you get that back on the tee, and then you think, and you aim. You don't worry about how you're swinging. You don't worry about how you only one thing you're concentrating on is hitting the ball and getting it down the fairway, whether it goes left, right, or centre. You don't care as long as I get away from all these eyes looking at me, and I can get there and get comfortable. Then, invariably, you hit a good drive.
That's true, That's quite
because of one thing. Only thing you thought about is hitting the ball.
Right.
Looking at the ball. You couldn't care down. As long as you hit the ball. That's all you were thinking about. Then you go to play your second shot, and then you line up at the pin, or you line up down the fairway. Then you stick your backside out, get your left shoulder high, get your right shoulder in. You get all these things the pro told you to do, and hit it 20 yards. So that's the emphasis on most people talk about the golf swing, the club and all this. They forget about the rotten ball. He is the thing that causes you all the problems.
I interviewed Alex Mercer for this podcast maybe a couple of months ago now. He had such a wonderfully simple take on what playing golf really is, not dissimilar to what you've just laid out. Have we lost some of that simplicity in the modern era with all of the tech and the equipment changes in the clubs and the balls and this, and you can dial this in and dial that in, and a TrackMan and the numbers?
Yep.
Do we lose something with all of that?
We have there. The people have.
Yeah.
The people are selling it.
The things haven't. They've done very well.
Right, and then the way the distance they're hitting the golf ball. What I'm saying is that it won't be long, as far as Brisbane's concerned. We'll have a tee on the end of the tarmac in Brisbane, and the first green will be at Alice Springs.
Yeah, that's right.
Then there'll be a tee on the end of the and the next green will be over it.
And it won't be long after that before somebody hits a 3-wood onto the green.
That's right.
And then we'll move the tee back again.
Yeah, but then you're going to tee up there in Perth and have a water carrier to Johannesburg.
That's right.
Then you go to the Northern Hemisphere.
That's right.
And that's it. They have become, they're making robots out of people.
Professional players particularly, but it's an issue with amateur players too, isn't it, Charlie? You would have 20 markers here who drive the ball ridiculous distances. No idea where it's going.
No, but it doesn't go too bad now because they've got all this design and modern equipment.
Yeah.
They don't have to do with the club head. No, well, I never used hickories. Well, I do use hickories, but it's only because of their own.
Yeah, because you want to.
Yeah, but we have our own club here.
Yeah.
And so it's in Sydney and Melbourne.
Scott Hayes. Scott Hayes, is he the club champion here at the Hickory, Scott? I follow Scott on Twitter. He's a very good player. Yeah, young guy.
And then they got these steel shafts and those the small heads we used to use and all that sort of stuff. And the shafts, they talk about torque in shafts or whip in shafts. Well, they got them always. So we had to swing the club at a pace that suited the club, not what the club suited you. And we have become a bit like fishing. You've got to have a certain hook and a certain line, a certain line. That you don't catch fish unless the fish bite.
True.
So the same thing with the golf ball, all that. And so there's so many people making money out of fishing and out of golf and out of cricket and get all these involvements. And when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, it comes back to the coach. And if you had a chance to talk to Wayne Bennett, our football coach or league coach, and some of them were L&B, Craig, you would, they make it simple. And when you get too technical, too bloody late when the bloke's coming here at 100 mile an hour and he's 6'10", and you've got to tackle him.
We've got them, haven't we? I mean, I think it's Mike Clayton who's often said that the freak in one generation is the norm in the next.
Yes.
John Daly was the freak in his generation. By the next generation, there were 20 John Dalys. It was only a couple of years ago, Justin Thomas hit 2 3-woods to the last hole at Erin Hills. It was 600 and something yards. 2 3-woods. 3-wood off the tee and a 3-wood second shot, which is remarkable.
Yeah, and the male hasn't changed, or the person or the people haven't changed that great amount.
No.
To what?
Sure. They're fitter. There's no doubt they're fitter and healthier. They eat better and they look after their bodies better because there's a lot more money at stake, but not enough to account for that.
That thing, that last 6 inches, that's the trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Golf always wins in the end, doesn't it? For all of the advancements, golf always wins in the end, doesn't it? Because ultimately somebody is playing it and that somebody is always vulnerable, unless you're Tiger.
Yeah, and the Tiger can find a way too.
Yeah, that's true. Not often, but he did.
And
there was a while there where he never did, but eventually he did, yeah.
But he's still not up with Nicholas.
No, that's right.
And then talking about those sort of people, and I think somebody like Arnold Palmer after the war, he resurrected on the planet. So he went all these different countries and.
And what do you think? Lots of golf. Peter Thompson did similar.
Yeah.
But he never had the charisma of Palmer. People didn't come out and follow Peter the way they did with Arnold. I think Peter's legacy is at least as important as Arnold's ultimately. His writings on the game and his contributions to the game, Peter Thompson, are at least as good as Arnold's. But people weren't drawn to Thompson the way they were to Palmer. And we see this also with Tiger. There's been a bunch of really good players come along since Tiger, but none have had that. Greg was the same. Greg Norman, who you worked with.
And Seve?
Something magnetic. Now, they're all doing the same thing. They're playing golf. I think Min Woo, we're recording this on the last round of the Players' Championship. Min Woo had a bit of an unfortunate final. He's got it, that electricity. What is it about those players?
They're able to come a level above. Their will to win. A bit like you had the opportunity to talk to George Moore. And I remember we were at a luncheon together and we're all guest speakers and the three of us and one Mel Anderson, myself, and then George. And I thought, well, we're at the Gold Coast track. And I said, well, people won't want to listen to you and I, Mel. They'd want to be listening to George. And so then somebody asked the question of George, what was it like riding Tulloch? And George said, if you didn't get on, you were invited to ride Tulloch.
Right.
And if you didn't do the right thing, Tulloch would turn around and say, what the hell are you doing? And he said it's like riding in a Rolls Royce in overdrive.
Just a passenger almost.
Yeah,
just
you didn't do anything. Tulloch knew what to do.
Yeah.
And so with some of the horses or some of the things. So they like Tiger and Arnold and Jack and Peter and Kel, and they just had that adrenaline, and Greg and Seve had it too, and same as that young Cameron Smith has. And, well, this is about Kari Webb. This is my tournament. and nobody's getting it off me.
That's right.
That's how she did get to that level. So a lot of people don't. A lot of people get to that level, but she had that ability, and same as probably Corinne Dibner. Mm-hmm. She hit the ball as well, and she was a tremendous player, but she never had that mongrel.
At Drummond Golf, we understand your passion.
Nice roll.
And that's because every Drummond Golf store is owned and run by a local who loves the game as much as you do.
Yeah, it's come off the face really well.
Someone who knows where you play and what you need.
Oh yeah, looking good.
With Australia's biggest range and expert knowledge.
Great. Now let's try that putter with this grip.
So if you want to improve your game, see a local expert at Drummond Golf.
It's more than just a golf swing. We get taken with golf swings. Everybody fawns over Adam Scott's golf swing, as we should. It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
It's ultimately not what wins golf tournaments, though, is it?
It's determination.
Yeah, there's something else.
The will to win.
Yeah.
And I did 3 categories. I used to play at prize money. It's completely different to when I was playing for my own money.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that soon, yeah.
I get the, yeah. So, but Arnold, I admire him a lot. I never had much to do with Tiger, but I spent a little bit with him, and when he's very young. And
did he ask you questions?
No.
Was he curious at all?
Well, he didn't.
No.
He didn't need to, because Butch was with him.
Sure.
And didn't want too many.
That's the danger is you get too many voices when you're a good player, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to tell you what they think you need to do.
Well, and with the intention of getting their hand in your hip pocket.
Of course.
And put you on there and I teach so-and-so. And,
it's a big pool of sharks, isn't it, professional golf? And as the money's gotten bigger, the sharks have gotten bigger.
Yeah.
The pool hasn't gotten a whole lot bigger. It's just more vicious.
No, a bit like Butch Harmon said, hey, you send some more guys over each other. I said, yeah. But I went, you don't have to charge everybody. We don't charge them at all. Mercer and guys.
Touring pros, you never charged? You don't charge touring pros when you're working, or you didn't?
No, I didn't. But I'll tell you something. Wayne Grady paid me some money, and so did Greg Norman. But the other blokes like me, they never had any money.
Nothing to give.
And they used to say to me, well, I used to say to them, you got any money? And they'd say, no. And I said, well, I haven't either, so don't worry about it. So we didn't worry. It had, and Mercer was the same, and most of the players, for those tour players, they helped them.
In terms of producing good players, Australia's been very lucky in that regard, haven't we? With the coaches and the club professionals that we've historically had here, and the generosity of, it's very different to America, isn't it? America's a much more dog-eat-dog place.
Yeah.
Here we tend to identify talent, and we promote it and assist.
Yeah.
Perhaps too much sometimes, do you think?
Maybe, but like just a couple of weeks ago, up the coast there with 4 or 5, or might have been half a dozen real good players, and Gliso is one of them, and Adam, and just a quick look. And I don't know, Von used to do the same thing. I don't think he ever got paid for it. I don't think he ever gave a lesson that he charged. Oh, he might have got charged when he's doing Coralbert and places like that. But
you charge the people that can afford it, and you help the blokes that need it, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, but you're right. They never get any help.
Yeah. The club professional, it's a very special thing, isn't it? I wonder, I'm really interested in your thoughts on this. You would have seen enormous changes in the role of the club professional from the time you started to now. Not all of them for the better. What don't we appreciate in this game about what club professionals bring? Many clubs have fallen for the trap of saying, a lot of money goes through that pro shop, we're going to take it over.
Yeah, I can see that. As you say, there's a lot of stories out there. The club pro, then if you're a good coach, if you're a coach who's wanted by the people, then you don't spend a great amount of time in the shop. That's where you need good trainees or somebody come along and managing your shop. So while you're out teaching. I gave a talk here to the kids about a month ago. The club pro is the backbone of the club.
With the game, in fact, Charlie, in many ways.
For the particularly if you're at a club.
Yep.
Just right, you're there. You're the first person they see when they come in, and the last people when they come to play golf. When they come in from playing, make sure you ask how they went, and then a little bit of a tip here and there. That gets people playing the game, and that gives them the interest, and then working on the other things, getting with your ladies and with the guys who are like 99% are all people at a golf club who are outside their single finger market, and they're the people that need to be. They are the people that we are, and there's potential sponsors in there too.
It's where all the money comes from, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the 20 markers.
Yeah, and they'd
15
be
markers.
where they come from for your tournaments.
Yeah, that's right. Alex Mercer told me that he coached multiple people, he said, but one guy in particular that he remembers who had as much money as a man could want, a magnificent house overlooking Sydney Harbour and 3 Rolls Royces in the garage, and he'd come to see Alex for lessons playing off 18, and he'd say to Alex, God, I wish I could have what you have. I'd give all of that up to have what you have. It's extraordinary, isn't it, to think about?
It's life, and I think, well, I'd love to be like Alec, and as you say, got all that money and that, but money doesn't buy you. It's a bit like Pelly. We were just talking to down Mike. He enjoys his golf, but he's one of these middle of the road golfers and play every day. But
I envy people who can enjoy not playing well in some ways, to be honest with you. You can still enjoy the game despite not being particularly good at it. That's a bit of a gift, I think.
And he has that, and so do a lot of those chaps that are there. And most of those guys that we were talking to a while ago, they were retired doctors and
business Royal Queensland members you would expect would be across from a certain sector of the community. Which leads me neatly to something, Charlie, and I commented to you this on the way back up to the room. You're a bit like the mayor around this place. I don't think we passed anybody on our way to and from the pro shop to take a photo who didn't say hello to you and you didn't say hello to them and have a bit of a chat. There's something about club membership. It's becoming a harder and harder sell in golf to convince people to join clubs. That camaraderie, that part of it, it's hard to articulate to people, isn't it? Yeah. That sense of... One of the blokes we ran into has just come back. He's been living in South Australia for 3 years, miserable. He's moved back to Royal Queensland. Must have seen 6 people slap him on the back and say, great to see you back. Yeah. But it's hard to sell that, isn't it? How do we do that in a modern era, do you think? In a market where golf has changed. There was a time when all golf courses were part of a golf club. That's very much not the case anymore, is it? There's a lot of resort golf, destination golf. There's a lot of competition for the golf dollar.
I think we've lost our way a little bit in respect with the Australian Golf Union. Might have veered off the tracks that it was on, and probably following an American idea as well. It might have been a cross between the Royal Nation. May have. I'm not too sure, but I mean, they've been a bit unlucky with a couple of guys that had there running it, and the PGA, we are at last working together, which is something I believed in, and all my life I could never understand why we couldn't stand the bar of each other. But that
it was real. It was almost like a Catholic and Protestant thing, wasn't it? They were two religions. There was amateur and there was professional, and the twain shall never meet.
Right, and that's what I was brought up in that. And then when I became president of the PGA, I made it my job, and it was in the old clubhouse over here, and George McCatter, who was president of the Queensland Golf Union and going into this Australian president, him and I had a punch-up. Not a punch-up, but we were talking about trying to get to him to say something, but he must have had a blue of 1 or 2 pros or some damn thing.
It was a frank and open exchange of ideas, I think, is how you might categorise that, do you think, Charlie?
Maybe, yeah. And anyhow, I said, well, if that's it, right, I know where I'm going. I don't have to do anything with you anymore. And he chased me through the clubhouse, and then he then said, well, okay, right, what have I got to do? And then him talking to me, and I'm only a whippersnapper, 24 or something. And I said, well, I was coming to you to try and get so we can all work together and get this game going, get all the clinics and things we want to do. And it was happening down south too, and we had that problem. And he was kind enough to come to one of our meetings. And he was the incoming Australian president.
You must have felt like a lion in a den of Christians, Charlie, walking into a PGA meeting.
It was a bit uncomfortable for a while, but then he was all right. Then he and I, and then we got him and Peter Thompson together. And when Peter was president of the PGA, and George McAdam was the chief of the Australian Golf Union, and we got it and got together. And then had another bust up down the road a bit further. But then we got back, and now they're back working together.
It's almost silly and frustrating how simple those things can be to solve, as you've just outlaid there, aren't they?
Yeah.
These entrenched views, and all it takes is 10 minutes of sitting down sensibly and exchanging views, and you come to it as like, well, actually, the Venn diagram here, we cross over on most things. We want the same thing, mostly. There's only those little bits on the outside.
That's where we come back to doing clinics for the kids. Yep. And for the ladies, and it was all combined.
Does the way we sold golf in the 50s, 60s and 70s and 80s, does it still work in 2023, or has society changed so much that we need to think of new ways to solve the game for new players?
The boys here are doing what we did, similar to what we did. And it's not completely changed. We had to change that about 10, 20 years ago, I suppose. But they're all working together. And we've got some of the members here, the ex-presidents and captains and that, who work in with the boys who do the teaching to get our kids going and with their girls. Yeah. And I think that's why we're
strong.
We've got a club there, and then just float off into the other into other clubs too.
Well, because they want to beat you now, don't they? And so they get their act together and start modelling themselves on what you're doing so they can have similar success.
Yeah. But prior to that, though, at the place over there called Virginia Golf Club, and Johnny Clatter-Pellowhouse and Vincie Maynard, they really did a lot of work with the young people over there. And I'll tell you what, I don't know whether there's a golf club in this world that has produced as many champions as Virginia Golf Club.
Greg started there, did he not?
Greg started there. Yeah. Wayne Grady started there. Yeah. Jack Rayner stayed there. And I could get there and I haven't got a list of them up around. But around there, when you go Nudgee and then you go over to one team where Cameron started and joined up here, and Bevier and all those guys. But when you look through the champions over there and good women golfers, come out of there too.
There's a culture, isn't there, develops at certain clubs, and there are golfers' golf club. It's about the golf. It's not about the Royal or the clubhouse or the functions. It's about the golf.
About getting that score on the board.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So.
It would be remiss, Charlie, for all you've achieved in the game, which is an enormous amount. Probably the thing you're best known for is working with Greg Norman when he was younger. Tell us how that came to be, and what are your recollections of those first few times, and just thoughts on Greg, and then we'll come later to perhaps Greg now, away from the course and things that are happening in the golf world with Liv, if you're comfortable to talk about that. Let's look back at the start, though. How did he come to you, Greg? Or
I was out teaching there one morning, and I said to the boys in the shop, that's when the shop was over here, I said, who's the blonde bomber out there?
So you saw him hitting balls?
Out here in the practice fairway, yeah. I said, he didn't remember, come from Virginia. Who is he? That's Tawny Norman's son, and she was a club champion.
So it would be a while since Greg was referred to as Tawny Norman's son, I would think.
So, and I said, oh, right. And then he was to finish school and he was working with PGF. So we never even shook hands or anything. And he'd be out there practicing, I might be teaching, and he'd be hitting balls, and I'd see something there, and I just mentioned, better work on this, get that out, get that organised. Then we just sort of come closer and closer. And a couple of little punch-ups. I got stuck into him one morning. He's at home, and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm washing my car. I said, you're hitting bloody golf balls. Wash your car overnight time. That. Bit like Michael Ferguson. He met Ben Hogan. just to deviate a bit. And he shook hands there, and Ben Hogan said to Michael, how many hours do you practice? And Fergie exaggerated a bit. He said, about 4 hours a day. And Hogan said to him, there's a lot more daylight left in the day to practice. So that's stuck in Michael's,
I can imagine,
in his brain. But then going back to Greg, he and the rule that we had in the shop, Margaret at this stage has come in to help manage the shop sort of thing, and we used to have half a day, boys in the shop, the other half they play or practice, whatever it is, lots of practicing. You don't come through those two brick walls out there unless you want to be able to play and practice. And if you don't want to do that,
don't come to the golf club.
Go back out. Or do something else. I didn't, not that abrupt or anything. I was just saying for their own benefit.
Yeah, of course.
And then the wind was blowing, it was raining a bit. It's out hitting balls in this weather.
A lot of club professionals wouldn't have encouraged that amongst their trainees. You hear horror stories about how trainees do. They should have been thankful that they were getting that opportunity with you.
Yes, and that was the number one rule. And I get down there and I say to the kids, "You doing any practice?" And a bit like the first time I went to England. And then it was raining and blowing like blazes, and I said to Greg, I said, "Oh, better sit down there watching TV." So get off their bum and they go out and practice in this weather because they'll have to play golf in this weather.
You're going to have to play in it, that's right.
Yeah. He put that in his book and nearly got shot. but he would work. The example of Greg, and the story I've told many times, is hitting the ball in the high. And I said, Greg, we need to get that ball down a bit lower because if you hit that over in while you're over in Europe or somewhere over in England or Scotland or somewhere, you're going to end up in Paris because the wind will blow the ball over.
The old Bellata ball, spin like crazy. You'd get up in there and do amazing things.
And then Tom McNaughton, he was down practising just ended the old 18th, and I said to him, "Hey, Tom, you got a minute?" And real Scotch brogue he had, and he came over. He said, "What have you been wanting?" I said, "How many times you played in the British Open and does it blow at all?" He said, "I played about 33." And I said, "Do you have to keep the ball down low when it's blowing over there?" He said, "You need to be in a quail eye." And Greg said, "What did he say?" I said, "You need to keep the ball down low, quail high." Now the bird, he said, "Oh no,
the flightless bird."
Yeah,
that's right.
And he said, "Yeah, right." And then Tom started. And had Turnberry and playing at these places, and the flags are over there when the wind's blowing, and you've got to play. So I said, "All right, show me." So I showed him, and then Tom showed him too, because he's a good golfer, Tom McNaughton. And that was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then between the Jordan faded a little bit and kept down. And we did the high ball because he didn't have trouble hitting the ball high because that's what he'd been practising, because that's what Nicholas did.
Yeah. And
Nicholas was up here as far as Greg was concerned. And so then the Wednesday morning, he came in about 9:30. I'd come in from a break. And he said, "You got time?" I said, "Yeah." Well, he said, "Come and have a look." So he said, "I've got it." And he had it. And that punch shot, that low shot, made him, and made a lot of players.
It's a player's shot, isn't it? Only real players play that shot. When you first showed me him, who's the blonde bomber, was he obviously better than others that you'd seen at that time? Was there anything that made you go, wow, this is special, or just he's good?
No, I just want to know who he was.
Right.
And I thought, he's going to practice like this. Where did he come from? What did he get his background?
He's in my golf club. What's he doing? Who is he?
now golf club. Yeah, but I mean, it's a new member, and that's what I said to the boys. And but then he was different.
Yeah. The sound is different, isn't it? You can hear it, and the fizz on the ball as it comes off the club face. Yeah. He's a big personality, Greg. He went on to become a very big personality. Was he at that time? I imagine he was always quite strong-willed, and I would imagine that the two of you would have had more than one disagreement over time.
That's part of all the I think all the trainees have a bit of a disagreement. Only for their own good, though. It's and for their own. I never had any trouble with anybody.
No. No, I didn't mean that. I just meant, I would imagine that You don't get where he's gone without something that most don't have. Partly what you were talking about before. Exactly. And that tends to be an extraordinarily strong self-belief.
Yeah. And
That can come across as arrogance, it can come across as cocky, it can come across as all sorts of different things. But if you don't have it, whether you come across as a nice bloke or a nasty bloke, if you don't have it, you don't get there, do you?
no, you got. And Curry had it.
Curry had it too.
And Fergie had it too, but he just couldn't get the putter. Same as Greg had trouble with the putter. Same as Adam had the trouble. And I blame myself for that. I never worked out what for them.
Is it inevitable, perhaps, Charlie? There's never been a great player, has there, that putted beautifully their whole career. It's the thing that goes, isn't it? They can always hit it. It's the putting that goes, whether it's a combination of eyesight, nerves. There's something about putting. Nobody puts. We saw Spieth a few years ago. He couldn't miss from 20 feet. We see him now miss from 3 feet sometimes.
And same with Tiger.
Yeah.
Tiger started missing those short ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, not finding a way. But then talking to Alec, of course, we were talking about, and same as another old mate of mine, Paul King. I remember somebody saying to me one time, a good player, trouble with his putting. And I said, well, why don't you ask Alec Mercer? I said, oh, why would I ask Alec Mercer for? He can't even putt. He admits that himself. I said, well, he's the bloke you should be going to see because he has, same as I have had for chipping, lessons of every player in the world. And everybody's tried to help Alec Mercer, so he's going to have a clue.
He's got all the information.
Yeah.
If it didn't work for him, some of it might work for you.
That's right.
It's an interesting way to think about it.
And the other thing and to me, you may not have asked Alec, you may not have asked some of the other players. The secret to putting is to hit the ball on the right line at the right pace and let the land do the work. Mm-hmm. The trouble with you is you try to hit the ball in the hole.
Right.
Instead of hitting it on the line.
Get distracted by the target.
Yeah, and that's what I didn't really tell. I might have mentioned it, but I didn't make it emphasise to Greg and to Adam and to those guys.
There's never been a great player who's putted well right through.
Benshaw's been close to it.
Can we think of another one? I mean this quite seriously. Could you think of another one? I can't.
Well,
Lauren Roberts, maybe.
The putt, and then they have that bad day when you overcook it. When I say overcook it, you overread it or you or you've underread it, and then you start fiddling with your swing.
Yeah.
And then somebody says, "Oh, you're doing this or you're doing that." Then your brain starts to boil, and then you start trying everything. Then you
again with the notion of simplicity. Peter Thompson's view on putting was don't three putt.
Yeah,
that was his. Just don't three putt. Every putt you stand over, just don't three putt it. Right. Some will fall in.
I saw him at the stage where he was missing these damn putts, and Kel always putted well though in his life. And
is he our most underrated golfer, Kel Nagle?
I think he is.
Do you think his achievements are remarkable, aren't they?
Yeah, and being a club pro too.
Yeah, and possibly the world's nicest man. Yeah. He'd be in the top 5. Comfortably.
He is
really something special.
Yeah, and he's up there with Arnold. Yeah. And Great Green Savvy and all those guys. Yeah. They are. And really, and Gary Player, I was talking to Gary Player, and we were talking about putting. He said, and I think it was written, somebody wrote it. He said, if I was starting golf now, he said, I'd go cross-handed.
Cross-handed. I think Arnold Palmer might have said that. In fact, it may have been Arnold Palmer who told Jim Furyk's dad that.
Yeah.
And Furyk's dad got him cross-handed putting from the get-go. So,
yeah. And that works.
Yeah.
And I did it with chipping.
Oh, well,
was a young bloke.
Matt Fitzpatrick won the US Open chipping cross-handed. And not much was made of it, actually. Peter Senior chipped cross-handed for a long time, didn't he?
Well, we got him doing that.
Right. Okay.
And putting.
Uh-huh.
And so Ozzie Moore tried to get him to do it too.
Right. BJ Singh, I think, went. He might have even gone split-hand, cross-handed chipping and pitching. What is it about the little shots? They're the pressure shots, aren't they? The big shots, the driving and the irons, they're big shots, aren't they?
You can hit it.
Yeah. You just hit it. If you don't want to hit it as far, hit a different club. But
That's right.
the fiddly shots is where things go wrong, aren't they?
The finesse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The brain.
The brain comes in and says, don't do that, you might enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Bloody brain. And I just see that if you walk up, I see some bloke standing back, mate of mine. He used to stand back from his putting, and he's a good putter, Doug Cranston. And but I'll see guys who've got problems with their chipping, they'll go in, so they have it all lined up, then they go straight in and play the shot.
Get it over with.
Don't get the bloody brain a chance to find a way to bugger it up.
Yeah.
That's how they would operate. And depends again, comes back to the individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you see them standing over there like poor old Doug Sanders and that damn putty had on the British Open. It was
one of the saddest things you can see. Every time I see it, I feel a bit sick in the stomach for him.
Yeah. And so, it's gone. He'd been there too long. Then he picks up a leaf.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could tell from his movements were jerky and uncomfortable and strained, and everything was tense, and you just knew that you couldn't. It would have been luck if that ball had gone in.
It would have been. He should have walked right away.
Yep. Put the club back in the bag and start it again.
It's easy to sit here and say that, but
yeah, of course.
You see so many people go through that sort of unfortunate setup in life, like that guy over in England in out of that water there, and he should have won the British Open. No, everybody thought it was a joke for a start. I forget his name.
Oh, Vandervelde.
Yeah.
The Frenchman.
Yeah, the Frenchman, that's right. And then he went water to water, and his wife went from smiling to bloody bawling. And that's terrible.
You knew his brain was gone when he took off the shoes and socks and climbed into the burn.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's that. He's now completely separated from his body. He doesn't know what he's doing. And one of the world's nicest people, again, and a fabulous player. That week he played so well. We've talked about some of the really good players, and we know who they are because they go on to achieve. That's what makes them good players. We talked about how it's more than just the golf swing. You must have seen any number of players who've come through here who are good enough physically, but for whatever reason don't make it. What are the sorts of things that we recreational golfers perhaps don't appreciate that it takes beyond just a good golf swing to really succeed in the game at a high level?
I really do think that you have to start taking lessons to get better. Instead of running, you might be a bank manager, you might be the chief of the BHP or something like that. And you might see all those books along there, all written there, and start reading all those and interpretations, and we get involved in that. And there's one book there, one of the boys, Paul Hart, he's come from Sydney. And
The dart.
The dart.
Loved the golf swing.
Yeah.
Dart.
And he just, the book was, I forget the name of the damn book.
It's not the Homer Kelly one, is it? The golfing machine?
Yeah, it could be that one.
Yeah, but the dart was big on that.
You call it the dart, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then we get involved in those things. So for the average golfer, like if you want to do what you think you're going to be doing, give away being chief of the BHP and forget about medicine and forget about dentistry and get on the practice fairway.
Yeah.
But then that's not going to cure it all either. You've then got to find out how good you are and how you're going to play, and then work out a situation that suits you, which is completely opposite to what he's doing or she. So that's one thing about fishing. You've got a reel and a rod and a hook and a sinker and a bloody swivel. There's not too many things, but in golf, you got everybody else interfering with it. But at least in fishing, you just throw it in the water.
That's right. And we get in our own way in golf too, don't we?
Yeah.
The internal monologue that goes on as you stand over the ball and all the things that come with that. What about good players who don't make it, who you thought would make it? You must have seen.
Yeah, I've seen so many Australian young people. And
not to name names, but what is there? Is there a pattern to? Is there something that's common to them, or?
Well, no, it's different. Some people might be driving, or it might be tee shots, it might be irons, it might be the 3/4 or half shots and chipping bunkers or.
Might be booze or women or cars.
Well, that's always on the card. Yeah.
It could be any or all of them, couldn't it?
Well, Alan Murray, Merck Murray, remember him? No. He's a hell of a player. And he copied off Kell, and he died just recently.
I see. So we can tell stories.
Well,
about-
no, but he's such a wonderful player.
Yeah.
But he'd go out and play a golf tournament and take his check and go to the races and give the check to the bookmaker
Wow.
because he owed money.
Yeah.
And Colin McGregor is a great mate of his.
Yep.
John Hadley, and that in our group they were. And Alan Murray, he was such a good swinger and hitter of the ball that the Americans used to come out and watch him play.
Wow. Not everybody's cut out for it though either, are they, Charlie? And I think in the modern era even more so. I think one of those electric factors we talked about with Min Woo is he likes the attention. He's comfortable in the spotlight. He likes to show off. You need an element of that, don't you? Because
Yeah, you do. You want to be.
the game is big and it's big entertainment, isn't it? You've got to be an actor and you've got to own the stage.
And they'll get there, and the person who's used to it, like me, you get people following when he's out playing, and it looks around, there's nobody. Where are they gone? And thinks, well, I must just I'm doing something wrong. The brain starts to get at you that way, and you see that so much in good young players, in male and female, because you're used to having people coming along watching you.
Well, there's a small pond, isn't there? And you can dominate in the small pond, but the big pond in golf is so much bigger, you can get lost the moment you make the leap. It really is. In fact, it's easier to get lost than it is to make it.
Yeah, and you've got to sneak up on it.
And real belief. It's interesting you mentioned Kari. I think Kari, particularly at the start of her career, she wasn't wired that way. She didn't like the spotlight. She didn't dislike it necessarily. She didn't like it, wasn't very comfortable with that. And yet she triumphed regardless. Really tells you about what's going on inside, doesn't it?
Yeah, and she's become a wonderful ambassador.
A fabulous ambassador.
Same as Greg, same as Tomo, same as Kelly, a whole lot of them, all great ambassadors.
Most in golf give back, don't they?
Yeah.
I think you find.
There's an example which is interesting for you to understand. You might have heard it before. It's something I've used all my teaching with kids who, when we were going to school, now I don't know whether it applied to you, but when I was going to school, I used to hope that I didn't win the race at the sports.
Why?
Because I'd have to make a speech.
Ah.
And I hope I didn't come second, because I might call on the person who come second.
Right.
And in all sports, and I watched this, when I first started teaching in golf, and it's part of my makeup, and then I do a clinic, and have the kids sitting there, and there might be 50 or 60 kids, so it wouldn't matter. There might be 5 or 6 kids, might be 200, don't matter. And I used to say to the kids, hands up those who used to, when they were running or when they were playing or the tennis match or whatever you're playing in, that you didn't win because you had to make a speech. How many of you did that, or didn't want some second in case you make a speech, or even third? And I said, well, I did. And I said, nearly every kid put their hand up. And I said, well, that's something we've got to get rid of. You've got to learn to make speeches. When we're finished here, one of you, we'll pick on one of you to thank everybody that's organised this clinic. And you get up when you get and make a speech to all the kids, to the teachers or to the people who are running the tournament or the event. And if you play in a junior event, to thank everybody. It's only meant to be small.
But you have
It's
to be
amazing
comfortable.
how many kids started to come good.
So there's a theory, isn't there, about fear of success? Some people
That's right,
actually
and that's
there's a
said to
fear
the
of success.
Said to the kids, I said, that's why the Americans keep beating us, because they love talking. They love getting up and telling people,
Yeah.
I want to thank so-and-so for helping me.
It's more than that, though, too, isn't it? It's that Jordan, give me the ball.
Yes.
I'm not afraid to fail.
That's
Give
right.
me the ball. Let me have a go. I'd rather have a go and fail, whereas I think for a lot of us, we'd rather not have a go than we didn't succeed or fail. So there can't sort of be a
That's right.
judgment there.
And these kids here, how many kids, I used to go through this 40 years ago, I used to say, how many of you young people are sitting around here at the bar, knocking off schooners, saying, I'd be Greg Norman when I was a kid, when I was young, I played. I said, you know what Greg Norman's doing now?
That's right. Where's he?
Yeah, he's not sitting there drinking
He's
15
not,
ounce bloody
not
beer.
sitting here still.
Yeah, right. And that sort of thing. Same with the racehorsing. I say to the kids, how many of you blokes are out there playing and bet at a reasonable hour. They're not down the road chasing girls around or just in the mind or drinking grog or taking down all this grog.
They're disciplined.
You don't see the champion racehorses doing that. They're back in their stable. And they'll be up at 4 o'clock in the morning training.
Yeah. You give up something too, though, don't you, when you pursue that? Greg's given things up. Yep. Lots of things. Yep. Not the least of them privacy. When you get as big as him, the same with Tiger. Yep. There's nowhere in the world they can go where people don't know them. And I'm sure there's a period where you welcome that, but there must come a time when you just wish that you could just go and sit somewhere without anyone knowing who you were.
Yeah. But they can in Australia. A lot of it happens in Australia. People go to a restaurant. I'm talking about people like that.
Yeah, we're less.
And they're not bombarded. But up in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Sorry, up here. They can't go in a restaurant and Tony's racing over. Or we go to Japan or go to Korea, somewhere like that. And they autograph. And Greg used to say, I'll do that after I've had my dinner.
Yeah, that's right. Let me eat first.
He didn't knock them back. He said, I'll do it after dinner. And Tiger did the same thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to, don't you? You don't get anything done. That's the simple reality of being a personality that kind of big. I can't let you go without asking you what you make of the last couple of years and Greg's place in the game and the live golf, the arrival of live golf on the scene. Have you followed it? What's your thoughts
on it? Not to death, but my opinion is something that Greg's been wanting to do 40 years. But then, and I don't want to put the Americans down, and what I say here is that unbeknownst to them, and if I was on the executive of the tour in America, I would probably be doing the same thing.
Of course you would. It's not broken, Charlie. Why would you fix it?
That's right, yeah, because they're trying to satisfy their sponsors.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's what it's all about. But, I mean, there should be a proviso there, which is Greg saying, so that they can, some of the players can get back to their own country, because unbeknownst to them, they're bigging up our tour, the Asian tour and all that. And that's what Greg's been on about. So give the boys some time to get back and start this off. And he's always been into getting out of this, getting the top 80 players in the world.
Playing against each other more often. You can see the sort of appeal. There's issues around it, but you can see the appeal and why it sort of makes sense on paper as a business model.
But as it comes back, as they come, it'll come together, because people won't go to the Open or the American Open or the PGA or the Masters there.
The live players.
Well, they're not allowed to go. But
they're allowed in the majors if they've qualified.
In a major, but in a big tournament, people go to see the best players in the world, and that's what he was getting at.
It'll be interesting to see it unfold, won't it? Is there too much money in the game, Charlie, at the top levels?
When people look at the American tour, and there's a $10 million a week tournament or $15 million a week, that's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
But then I may be living back in the dinosaur ages too. No, I think really they could sort of push it down a bit further, the money. If they're going to have that money, include a few more people.
So the question then becomes, and I still don't think they've seen this, do they have a responsibility, even if it costs them some money, to take the game internationally for the good of the game?
And that's why we used to bring out, when I say we, I'm talking about the major sponsors like Packer, and bring out Nicholas and Palmer, and to improve our golf. Now, we've lost all that.
We can't afford that anymore, Charlie.
No,
you can't afford Rory and Jordan and Justin. You can't.
And the other problem is that all these, and people I blame a lot to a degree, and I suppose that the competitors need to have managers, but the managers are sort of beating up one against the other. So we'll take Jamie Carr, the jockey, and see what you own a horse. You want to get her to ride the horse. You don't go to her.
No.
It goes to the other manager.
Not to paint with too broad a brush, Charlie, but
right.
Middlemen generally are a human construct who have just designed an industry where they create a problem that they have the solution to. That is essentially what that's about. There's not a real purpose for that tier of people, which is not to say they're all bad. There are some very good managers around the place, but
I'm not.
there are some who are not. It's just money, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not interested in getting to take cricket. Yeah, we'll take McGrath and all the work that he does for that the breast cancer. And he puts a lot of work in. I wouldn't have a clue whether he gets any money over or not. It's got nothing to do with me.
Can't imagine.
And I don't think that he would.
I don't think he would. I don't think he'd want it to. He's got a motivation that's much more personal, obviously, and fair enough too. We'll wrap it up, Charlie. So I want to get some thoughts just quickly from you on the sort of the state of the game now, and are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of golf?
I'm optimistic with these new ideas that are coming in with these short golf courses.
The little par 3 pitch and putt sort of, you've got one here
they're
now.
all changing around, and I think they're on. They've got one in Melbourne now, Kingston Heath, wherever it is.
Yep.
I think that they're going to need to become more prolific. And
it's a fabulous form of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, well, everybody can have a go at it.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
And the tour players can play it.
Absolutely.
Fix up their short game. That's my idea of the game. And then
simpler,
and more enjoyable, because you haven't got to have to be built like a crocodile wrestler to hit the ball so far. Then these clubs and really, the optimistic thing is I'm been for years and years saying we've got to take control of the ball, but it's difficult because you've got the Titleist over here, Nike over here, and Dunlop over here, and then Callaway over there, and all contracted to the players. And you can't have this. Well, we're going to use the Dunlop ball in the in the Open because hey, he's contracted to me to use the Titleist ball, and it's hard.
Isn't there a laziness about that approach though from the manufacturers? I think there is, where they've just said the easiest thing to sell is distance. So all we sell is distance, and it's true of balls and clubs. 100%. You never see a golf ball or a golf club advertised as anything but longer than the previous.
Right. And if I tell you what, when I started in 1953, get 10 yards on a ball, now we're going 10 metres, I would be hitting the ball.
You'd be teeing off in Perth, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would be, yeah.
You would.
And going water carry.
You would.
So advertising.
In fairness though, Charlie, and don't we as golfers have to take some responsibility? Because you know what? We keep buying it. We keep buying it. And you rail against it, and you're down in the pro shop the next day, and you go, well, hang on a minute, I heard this one goes, I'll go give that a try, and I'll pay $500 for that. So you fuel the fire, don't you, by being a part of it?
No, they pay up. They pay some astronomical amount of money for some clubs.
Yeah.
You see all these kids come along with $3,000 or $4,000 set of clubs.
Is that healthy? Does that produce better golfers? Does it produce golfers who've got a better relationship with the game? Because it's not just about elite. Most golfers, even good ones, won't go on to become elite players. There's just not that much room up the top of the game, is there?
No. Seve started off with the bloody old club. Yeah. Young, one of our boys, he's in America. He's been playing all right in the last couple of months.
Not Jason
Day.
Yeah.
His father got an old bloody club out of the dump.
Yeah.
The dump.
I don't know whether there's a pro in Melbourne called Sandy Jamison who's got this theory. It's called one club golf. He teaches people to play. It's just one club. It's about the length of a 9-iron, roughly the loft of a 4-iron. It's got a grip that puts your hand in the right place, one of those training grips. It's an illegal club, but complete novices. You putt with it, you chip with it, you play out of the bunkers. An hour. He's created people who've fallen in love with the game. Many of whom that ended up going on buying sets of golf clubs and joining golf clubs. Just introduce them to the joy of the game. Charlie, it's been fabulous. I know we've tried to solve most of the world's problems. I'm not sure how far we got, but it's been enjoyable having a go. Thanks for taking the time, mate. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
That's it for episode 87 and one of Australian golf's great characters. Again, a big thank you to Charlie and Royal Queensland for making all of that possible. Now, some exciting news about our next episode, which John Huggan will be recording on the grounds at Augusta National as Masters Week gets underway next week. Look, it's always risky to promote something that's yet to be recorded, but I'm confident the golf gods will look after us and that we will be listening to Huggy in conversation with Mark O'Meara, the 1998 Green Jacket winner. That's next time, hopefully, on The Thing About Golf.